Welcome to the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM. I'm your host, as always, Aria of Aria Uncensored, which is going to be on tonight at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after Free Talk Live, so be sure to tune in for that. My phone is not being contrary today, so hopefully I will actually still have prep for that. But even if I don't, as we've talked about, we're ending the show a bit early today so that we can go attend this ACLU event and hopefully get much laughter from it. I'm joined in the studio today by
Christopher Wade of Think Penguin and Tech Show Freedom Decrypted.
And
I'm Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com.
And I think it's really cool that, like, all of us are going to go to the event. I mean, because initially it was a question of who was going to record it, right?
Yeah.
In case things go down. But now we're just all going to go. And I don't know how long we'll actually stick around. It may be super boring, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be nothing happens at all.
Yeah, but I printed out these flyers that I intend to pass out outside the door of the event. A real Ask a Trans Person Anything with Aria DiMezzo, Uncensored Edition, tonight at 10 o'clock. Should be good fun. Now, I've seen a story on Facebook. I don't actually use Facebook, but Will brought it to my attention about a massive WikiLeaks dump. Have either of you seen this? Because I'm not finding anything in the news about
fake.
it.
It's fake. Yeah.
I heard something like that.
There's a URL, file.wikileaks.org, where WikiLeaks publishes all its raw documents after they release them. When they've been doing it there for several years. And somebody apparently stumbled on this last week after Julian Assange was arrested and thought, oh, they must have dumped a bunch of documents. And then it just blew up among all the conspiracy websites. It got so big that WikiLeaks actually tweeted about it and said, no, this is not a big dump that's been there for years.
Now, you know, it's interesting. There have been, and I can't recall if it was WikiLeaks that did this, but there was a trove of information at some point that people threatened to release upon
like the
arrest.
Encrypted insurance documents?
I don't recall.
They haven't released a key for that, as far as I know.
No, but I think they will once Assange is thrown into prison or possibly put to death.
It is. I mean, yeah, it's a good question as to so it was with Assange and so yeah, I mean, it's a good question of when is that going to happen, if it even really, you know, if there really is even anything inside it. I don't know if there is or isn't, or it seems like it's plausible given that, you know, all the information is already released.
Yeah,
but
one of the things that concerns me is that Ecuador only agreed to release Assange on the promise that he would not be extradited to a country that allows the death penalty.
Well, no, it wasn't. It more like if
the death penalty would not be used against him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he wouldn't face the death penalty, basically.
Right.
I don't know why anybody would trust the American government on this matter.
Well, not only that, but it's a condition that's already they can't extradite you already in Europe, from what I understand, if you are facing death in America.
Really?
Yeah, that's already true. So, like, they didn't really put any conditions that didn't already exist on his release.
Interesting. But I think they're still going to extradite him. I mean, time will tell, certainly, but I definitely see him making his way to America, whether they do it legally or what.
Yeah, well, the U.S. is really good at taking people from one country and
kidnapping.
Secretly
let's call it what it is,
transporting them to another.
Yeah, kidnapping.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's already been kidnapped. We would just kidnap him for the people who had kidnapped him.
That's true. I mean, okay, so after you kidnap somebody, what would they call you forcing them to do something against their will? I mean, there's probably some other.
Well, what do you mean doing something against their will?
I mean, they're already being forced to do something against their will, but
right, like exist in a place and time that
I don't know.
They don't
I mean,
want to exist.
There's further abuse going on once, you know. I mean,
oh yeah, he won't be treated well,
right?
Wherever he goes,
right.
Like,
so, I mean, my heart goes out to him for that. I wish he wasn't such an attention-craving person.
Narcissist?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say narcissist.
That's what a lot of people say about him.
Yeah, but I don't know if I agree with them. I don't know if he's a narcissist or not, but I know he certainly liked being in the limelight. And that on several occasions, he appeared to violate the fundamental principles of WikiLeaks in order to achieve that result, like choosing not to release files on Hillary Clinton and things like that in order to keep himself in the spotlight for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of these things where you're going to have people coming up with criticisms, whether they're valid or not.
Yeah.
And it's, what is the truth? It's sometimes hard to, make out. And even if it is true, sometimes it's like, eh.
Well, I mean, this was observable during the 2016 election, where he was like, I've got these files on Hillary Clinton, and they will totally sink her campaign, and she will lose, and it's going to be great. But I'm only going to release them in 3 parts. Here's the first part. It's not as good as the second part. Oh,
I mean, that sounds...
Weeks later, here's the second part, but it's not as good as the third part. I mean, if you have vital information
but that
will actually alter the course of an election...
I think that I would call strategic, and I don't necessarily know that strategy is alone in and of itself something I would condemn.
Well, the U.S. government keeps its secrets for strategic reasons.
Well, of course. We know the
so
other
what's the
issue with that
difference?
is...
So why is it somehow fundamentally wrong from a principles perspective, some sort of principles perspective,
I would say so.
For them to do it but not the government?
I would say it's wrong for all of them to do it. If you have world-altering information like that, like to change the course of the election of the world's foremost superpower, it would be immoral, and it was immoral, to withhold that.
I'm not sure. The thing is, I don't remember exactly which documents got released when, but there is an argument for not releasing everything all at once, because you can only read documents and write news stories so fast. If you overload somebody with too many documents at once,
there's that true. That's true too, and it would also kind of put an end to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So,
but he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to overload the public with the information. He could have released the third batch, the most critical one, initially, instead of dragging it out over the course of 2.5 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Like, what's the objective? What are you trying to achieve? What does he want to achieve, right? What does WikiLeaks want to achieve? I don't know if that's entirely clear. Oftentimes people have objectives or agendas, and it's not necessarily clear what their agenda is entirely, or, we may not understand what their agenda is entirely. There's been a ton of people attacking him for reasons that seem to be, political, and not really have anything to do with anything other than they don't like the guy. It's...
Well, my issue with him is the one of that principle, where I feel like he became the enemy that he was fighting against by keeping secrets and withholding information because he believed it to be too valuable to release to the American public or just to the world at large.
I mean... But if it's see, I feel like he's got a strategy, and WikiLeaks has a general strategy, and I don't.
Yeah, that strategy is keeping themselves in the limelight. There is absolutely no reason not to release the critical documents in June when they first released the initial batch that turned out to be a big goose egg.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what the objective was or why they did that. So,
well, I think the objective is self-explanatory. They wanted to keep the attention on themselves.
That very well could be.
Otherwise, there's no reason they wouldn't have released the most important documents initially. Like, oh, by the way, this is the truth about Hillary Clinton.
I mean, I feel like it's jumping to a conclusion without evidence of there being evidence. It's.
Well, I think
maybe that's true.
I think
maybe
it's self-evidential. I mean, they withheld.
Maybe it's true, but maybe it's not.
I mean, we know for a fact they withheld what they believe to be the most critical and damning information about Hillary Clinton.
Right, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't think you're wrong. I just don't necessarily know that it leads to the conclusion that you're making.
Fair enough. Well, if that dump didn't actually happen, there's really not much reason to get further into WikiLeaks. But the United States government, of course, is cataloging the damage Assange did to them. So we should get into that. This is the Call to Freedom. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Excuse me. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. And as always, you're invited to give us a call. That number is 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160. Or you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm. And we were talking about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. But the U.S. government really likes saying that there was significant damage to them as a result of WikiLeaks, even as the rest of the world and WikiLeaks and everybody else says, no, that's stupid. There's no way there's no way you were damaged by this. And even your allegations that, we damaged informants and things like that are BS, because we heavily redacted those particular documents and omitted those people's names.
I'm not even sure it matters. He wasn't a U.S. citizen, and that's generally they're talking about treason when they're talking about these things. Well, so it's not treason because he's not a U.S. citizen.
Well,
he's not in the U.S. He's not even a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and he has not been charged with treason. I think the allegations of treason are coming from Republicans and conservatives who just don't know what they're talking about anyway.
Yeah. Just generally speaking, that sounds about right.
Yeah. But he can certainly be accused of foreign espionage, sabotage. Why couldn't he? He attempted to break into the computer of the federal government.
Oh, he tried to run a password hash through John the Ripper and didn't come up with anything.
I mean, but we just arrested a woman at Mar-a-Lago for being within arm's reach of a computer.
Well, okay.
The charge of espionage is really vague.
I wouldn't put it again. Well, I guess they did charge him with computer hacking, but I don't know.
And I think in literal terms,
it seems like a stretch to me, but I get where you're going with this.
Well, I think in literal terms, he was literally engaged in spying on the American government. It may not have been on behalf of another government.
They don't like that.
I don't know. I think this is one of the situations where it goes to demonstrate why governments need to stop prosecuting people who are hacking. It's up to the individual or entity to secure their own devices. And
certainly,
if they're under the illusion that they can simply go after everybody who might hack into their system and somehow protect their system that way, it's a futile effort. It has no real world impact on your security. So why do it? It's just a waste of money and resources.
Well, I think the idea here, and I'm not taking the position of the American government. I want to be clear on that. I'm just pointing out that, the devil has a point here where he did attempt to hack into one of their computers in order to access classified information.
I think I would disagree with you on that. He, at best, might be charged with, and he was charged with, I should say, conspiracy, not actual hacking. And he didn't really hack anything. He, at most, maybe cracked a password or attempted to. The person who was hacking would have been theoretically
Chelsea Manning.
Well, you don't have to be successful to be guilty of a crime, right?
That's true, but it's not
like you don't have to be.
I don't know if I would really consider that hacking, and I'm using the word hacking loosely because hacking is really just the joy of learning. But anyway, but I know it's not being used that way here,
right? But I certainly don't agree that he should be held in prison or anything like that. I'm just saying that I could see why he would have espionage charges leveled against him. I wouldn't agree with that, and I think
it seems like such a stretch when he wasn't even in the United States. I get that. You
don't think
you may not have to be in the United States to be charged with espionage, but it seems kind of messed up because if you're charged with espionage, you should at least at a minimum be within that country's jurisdiction. If you're not, then how is it? I don't know. It just seems like such a stretch.
Yeah, it is a stretch, but the U.S. thinks its jurisdiction is anywhere on the planet. So
yeah,
that's true too. Well, we do in a large sense have jurisdiction over Europe. It was actually within one of the documents.
Wow. Wow. Say that again.
Yeah, we do in many ways have jurisdiction over Europe.
Okay, so I do believe that's the government thinks they do, and they probably do in practice, but I certainly would not use the word we.
I wouldn't use. I'd be careful with that word.
And that's messed up. And I'm not trying to call you out on the we part. I'm mostly just saying that's really messed up because it's true, but it's like That is just so messed up.
It's actually in the 1980 Bilderberg report that I was reading earlier today that was in the mythical WikiLeaks dump when I was looking for files. That, going all the way back to the 1950s, there was a widespread understanding among the United States and European politicians that we wanted something back for bearing most of the brunt of the mutually assured destruction foreign policy. And that was a level of control over them. Now, since the Soviet Union no longer exists and the mutually assured destruction is no longer it's no longer relevant in the world, Europe is beginning to stretch its legs and to not necessarily follow blindly whatever the United States says to do. It's also helped that they have formed the European Union. But yeah, part of the 1980s document was about the eventual formation of the European Union in order to separate the United States and Europe economically so that when one of them went through economic hardships, the other wasn't necessarily dragged along with it. And obviously the 2007 recession showed us that didn't work.
Well, it's what's interesting about that is I think at one point that it may have been more true that division could help stave off economic issues. But the reality is today, it doesn't matter what country you're talking about. We're all connected in a system, a worldwide economic system.
Yeah, there's so much global trade and travel and everything right now that anything that happens in the United States is going to have ripple effects all over the world.
To be clear, they weren't talking about limiting trade or embargoes or anything like that. They were talking about creating two distinct currencies that were independent of one another.
Okay. Well, Michael, even in reverse, that's also true. I mean, if other countries have, economic issues like tornado, not tornado, but like, I'm trying to think what those are. A tsunami, and it wrecks their memory, the memory production because it's all centralized. Well, then the prices go up in the United States, which has an economic impact on U.S. companies as well as, just individuals, because they can't buy as much memory for their computer or buy a computer with as much memory, et cetera.
Yeah, there's several years back.
We see that all the time.
Several years back, there was a big flood in Thailand, and
that's another good example.
It flooded a bunch of hard drive factories, and the price of hard drives went up for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I
didn't notice.
Yeah, they never went back down either. Really,
they tend to not do that.
Did. They started doing eventually, but
the prices of SSD came down, but traditional hard drive really have not gotten back down to the level. So I'll give you an example. So back prior to that flood, we were paying about $25 for hard drives. For like the lowest capacity hard drives. Today we're probably paying more like $40 to $50 minimally. So
really,
yeah, for the traditional hard drives.
Well, is the capacity different? Because like 4 or 5 years ago, a low-end hard drive was like 160 gigabytes.
Yeah, the hard drive, the capacities have gone up, but the prices haven't gone down relative to the increase in capacity. So it's
right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Call to Freedom. We're going to talk more about the European Union and the United States and Julian Assange, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom and the Rational Review News Digest, located at www.rationalreview.com, is the Freedom Movement's daily news digest, aggregating stories from all over the internet that are of interest to libertarians and liberty-minded people. They include podcasts, videos, blogs, and news articles, and are now a source for people to receive the Call to Freedom's podcasts. So be sure to check them out at rationalreview.com to stay up to date on all the happenings in the wider world. Now, there's always stupid news going on, but we've been talking about Assange, so I think it's probably best to stick to that for the moment, even as idiotic things pop out at me. But the Department of Defense has authorized several damage assessment reports after WikiLeaks released its massive cache of classified documents. And this is coming to us from just a few days ago, so I don't know what they're referring to. And BuzzFeed News, this is going to be good, can reveal some of their contents for the first time. The heavily redacted reports cover a roughly 3-year time span. BuzzFeed News obtained more than 300 pages in response to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. So I find it unlikely that due to the timing, the government suddenly was like, okay, well, here's your documents. It seems like, again, we're dealing with a news organization that was sitting on information rather than releasing it.
Yeah, well, they were just waiting for Assange to get arrested to release this, because it's probably not all that interesting without something actually happening. The
entire circumstances have been manipulated to such a degree. They're re-bringing up sex allegations.
I saw that. I know that Sweden said that they had dropped the charges or whatever, or they weren't going to pursue them, but they were going to leave open the possibility of re-pursuing them one day. Then, he was arrested in the UK, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're bringing our charges back.
Yeah, and the United States has said, for a very long time that they weren't pursuing him, and then we find out not that long ago, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, was it? That they were, because of the document that they accidentally released indicating that they were going to charge him, and then they're like, I don't know if they still denied it, but I think they kind of still denied it, and now all of a sudden, well, here it goes. Now they're saying they are going to charge him with something. So, the whole process has been manipulated to make people not like the guy. And it's not to say that there may not be things about him that nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
But to the degree of the manipulation it's mind-boggling. And he's not the only person who I've seen. I mean, there's so many other people out there, activist types, who I've seen government basically manipulate and not necessarily arrest them, but through different means make up fake websites to have them accused of sex crimes, and then we find out later, everybody goes on an attack and they attack them for it, and then we find out later that the people who made the accusations have been identified, and they come out and they said, oh no, that didn't happen. And it's like, wait a minute, you were clearly the person who is supposedly the victim, and now we find out that you weren't the victim.
I feel like you're referring to something really specific, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Jacob Applebaum.
Okay.
But Jacob Applebaum. He's was behind the Tor project, and they fired him. And he may not be the nicest of persons, but he certainly did not. Basically, he was accused. Supposedly, there was a ton of women who were they had been violated by him, some sort of sexual violation. It wasn't even clear that he raped anybody, but right. just the mere accusation of.
It's powerful,
right?
It's a powerful accusation.
And so they had basically these pictures of fake people up where you couldn't see who they were, and then one story or two stories or whatever, and basically the stories were fake and the circumstances were real. But what actually happened was he was, I guess, drunk, and he was kind of hitting on a woman at some point. The woman, that was one story, and then another story where I think they were.
Isn't it amazing that when two drunk people have sex, it's the man who gets in trouble?
Well, so another one of the stories was basically about how this woman was she was raped, essentially. It was what the story was suggesting. And the story sort of did happen, but she wasn't really raped. What happened was she went to a party that was like a bondage party or something like that, knowing full well what was going to happen, and then she regretted it later. So it's not rape. That's not rape.
No, she changed her mind after the fact.
Right, and it comes out later that the woman says, I don't want him to be charged with anything. And mind you, he never was charged with anything. Because there probably wasn't even a crime here. But the point was that was enough to eventually get an organization, the Tor Project, who advocates for privacy and anonymity and people's rights, and they were put in a position to basically where they had no choice but to fire him. So because of the backlash,
that's tragic.
Yeah, and this is just a good example of how the government, these shadowy figures manipulate, what you're perceiving in stories and the public. Certainly. And it happens a lot more than most people think. So.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it here on the show because you can't find a news outlet that mentions Russia without talking about as though it's just a matter of fact Trump and Russia collusion. or Russian collusion against Hillary, or however they wish to phrase it. And now even the FBI has come out and said, okay, yeah, there's nothing here. But the media has been beating that horse into people's heads for so long without ever saying, oh, by the way, this is a completely unfounded allegation that we're just making here in the middle of this article. We're just stating it as fact, even though we have absolutely no evidence for it.
No, well,
that the masses of American people actually believe it to be true. Even now that the FBI has said, oh, yeah, by the way, nothing.
Nothing, big nothing burger, but they're still making the claims.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, because once somebody has been convinced of something, it's really, really hard to present them with evidence that they're wrong and get them to change their minds.
Yeah, very true. It's just you have to get the perception of it doesn't have to be true.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. That's enough for society to get most people to convict, even if the person is a saint, you know.
And that's one obvious way that the American people have just been manipulated en masse.
I don't even think it's just the American people. I think the world has been manipulated, to be quite frank.
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's something that all governments do, and the United States certainly... I mean, extensive amounts of money and research go into the best ways to manipulate people.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need to, charge you or lock you up in order to destroy you. It's even just
all they have to do is accuse you in a lot of cases.
All they have to do is basically go to a judge and swear that this IP address is access child porn. That might not actually be on the list, right? But
right.
All an FBI agent has to do is go and swear that, and then they get a warrant. They conduct a search, for example, and then all of a sudden it hits the newspaper that the person was accessing child porn, even though there's no charges. There's nothing to back the story up. It's just, but that person's guilty. They're in the eyes of society. That person that's it. Any business relationship that person has, terminated. Jobs, family, destroyed. People commit suicide over this, and yet this is the kind of thing that the governments, especially the U.S. government, does quite routinely.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've seen it here.
I was referring to Ian Freeman of Free Talk Live as basically. So, but he's not the only one.
No, certainly not. It's a common tactic, and the FBI really seems to like it. I mean, it really seems to like the entire child porn thing because it's one of the issues guaranteed.
Yeah,
to get people riled up.
Sex, just anything to do with sex, and if they really want to hit it home, add childs to it, and you can't defend that person. It's like it doesn't matter that they didn't do it. Nope, if you defend them, you're a child rapist, and it's like. Yeah.
We had that conversation on Free Talk Live last night, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Because somebody called in and was like, child rapists need to have it cut off and be hung. And I'm like, well, I think they should be forgiven, same as everybody else who commits an aggression. And that did not go over well with anyone.
Wow. No, it wouldn't.
No, and I knew it wouldn't. So, I mean, but it was amusing, nonetheless.
Yeah, because rational minds, unfortunately, don't always prevail.
No, they don't. This is the Call to Freedom. We'll be back in a moment to discuss more of Julian Assange and this mythical damage to the U.S. government. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. And maybe you want to have sex with prostitutes and then arrest them, or bust people for drugs and then sell the drugs on the side for a nice little bonus. If you've ever wanted to enjoy the power rush of being a cop without all the paperwork, then you should try the Thin Blue Line game, which can be found at thinbluelinegame.com. It's the only card game in the world that allows you to shoot someone and then escape accountability with the phrase, "It was dark and I thought it was my apartment." You know, typical cop stuff. Get it now at thinbluelinegame.com. Assault and battery is not included, but for a limited time, you can order your copies and use the coupon code CTF to have all shipping costs waived. So go get it. That's thinbluelinegame.com. And we've not actually been discussing cops per se, but we've been discussing government idiocy. But Chris, you actually just came across something about the Indian government.
Yeah, I
banning
did.
Something that none of the three of us have ever used.
No,
I've never used it.
It's a program called Tik-Tok, and from what I understand,
I've heard of it.
It's like an instant messaging platform. So I guess like Snapchat chat kind of. Google, basically the story is from Venture B, and the title is Google pulls TikTok from Play Store in India following government order. Google's pulled popular video app TikTok from the Play Store in India following a local court's direction, stroking fear among some activists that this could set a dangerous precedent. Apple, which has also been ordered by the government to pull the app from its App Store, plans to comply with the order later this week, a person familiar with the matter said. Google and Apple declined to comment. TikTok, which has amassed over 120 million monthly active users in India, did not immediately respond to a request for comments.
That's pretty big.
Just in India alone.
Yeah. It's.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you spam Facebook with advertisements incessantly.
Wait, so is that what's going on? So,
well, that's how they came into existence. So that's how they created a following.
Okay.
There was some test route run somewhere where they generated videos of chicks singing or whatever, and then they used those to run just endless ads on Facebook, to the extent that the TikTok ads themselves became a meme on Facebook.
Yeah, so TikTok has come under hot water in India in recent weeks after some users complained about inappropriate content, including pornography, on the video service. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like absolutely ridiculous that because there are people on the platform who are using it to communicate stuff that the government doesn't like, that you would ban the entire platform. Every single platform out there has got something on it that the government's not going to like, or some group of people is not going to like.
It certainly makes me wonder about library. Can you put pornography on library?
Yeah, why not?
Well, that's exactly my thought about it. I mean, there's no way they could take it down or anything like that.
So,
I mean, it's totally decentralized.
I think the way it works is there is a mechanism, I think, for, I don't want to say censorship because it's not censorship exactly, but for filtering out content.
Well, you certainly wouldn't be on the home page.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you could still get to it, from what I understand, if you know the URL. But it wouldn't necessarily come up in search results. I think is kind of the way it works with Library. I've used Library and I've read a bit about it myself, so I have a little bit of an idea of how it works, and I think that's probably fair to say. But I haven't actually, I don't know, having not actually seen or tried to access anything that was banned, I don't really know for sure the details and practice of how it's working.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, try and post something and see if somebody will ban it. Get on the
Female versus Nazi.
Yeah, maybe there's a Telegram group, I think.
They wouldn't ban that.
No, I think it's mostly for copyright or something to that effect. So
really, they enforce copyright on Library?
It's I think it's more like you won't be able to, when you open the application, if you search for it, I think you will, and you have the actual address, you will be able to access it, because again, it's decentralized and everything else. But if you search for content with the name of the movie or something, then if it's been reported as being copyright infringing, then it won't show up in the search results, if that makes any sense. So okay. if you have the actual, maybe if you have an actual channel, that's not a problem. But if you don't have the channel or you don't have the URL for the content, then it would be a problem.
It occurs to me also, yeah. And it occurs to me also that there are a lot of similarities between DLive and Library.
DLive is based on a proprietary technology, from what I understand, and this is just what I've been told. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But so I don't necessarily know that, and I think the similarities are a bit different because DLive has live streaming. I don't think that there is live streaming although it might be coming.
Ian nodded yes. There is live streaming on Library?
I don't think there is, not right now at least.
Yeah.
Library is definitely decentralized file storage, but there's no live streaming. I don't know if they have plans for that. I haven't heard anything.
That would be a remarkable feat.
I get their emails, so I haven't seen that. I don't think DLive, we're not clear on how decentralized DLive actually is at this point, so it's not clear at all.
Well, I wasn't meaning by the decentralized aspect.
So
that they're similar.
This is what I can say about DLive. They are claiming blockchain. But when I looked for sources or anything of that nature, there didn't seem to be anything.
Interesting. I mean, that's always alarming because I don't have the capabilities of going through source code to find out if there's some shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
But people I know, well, not that I personally know, but other people do.
I mean, I think it's a base foundation of something that we should be concerned about and looking at when we're talking about things like decentralization, because ultimately, if it's proprietary, somebody has keys to the castle and can shut you down. Now, maybe, right now, the platform isn't censoring anybody. Well, that's how it tends to start.
We'll find out tonight.
But I think, yeah. But I
don't think it's going to go over well. I really don't, and I don't want to jeopardize the LRN channel.
I think we already know that it has censorship, don't we? Didn't there's or maybe not censorship? No, I think there is, because there's a terms of service, and
that was a glitch.
A glitch to terms of service?
No, that we kept. I assumed what you were getting at was that we kept getting hit with the age restriction tag.
Oh, yes, that. Yes.
Yes, apparently that was a glitch.
Okay.
Or a mistake or some, I don't know. Error.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to.
Fair enough.
It was an error.
I don't know.
Some description.
It's got look.
It's like iTunes saying that our podcast isn't good enough. It's an error of some description.
Yes, that was pretty funny. It's got some sort of filtering in it, right? And I don't necessarily know. I'm not going to automatically condemn a platform just because it has filtering, but certainly,
I will if they won't let me push the envelope.
Well, no, because filtering
reasonable people.
Okay,
would.
so let's back up, Aria. Let's talk about this for a minute. So filtering is not necessarily the same thing as censorship. Generally, like if a platform were to remove if they're able to remove, or they can, or they do remove, say, your channel, that's different from saying not having the search results come back in their search or something to that effect. And especially if the
I don't think either
one
of those would qualify as censorship, though, because I don't have the right to be on their platform in the first place. And to me, that's a critical aspect of what defines censorship, is that you do have the right to be there or to speak it. And that right is being curtailed.
I think there's two different. We're talking. There's the right. I don't necessarily think that censorship has to be used from a perspective of whether or not you have the right or don't have the right. I think it can be censorship.
See, I would say deplatforming in that particular case.
Yeah, I mean, deplatforming is I think it's a form of censorship. A company has the ability to censor people. Now they have the choice not to censor people, maybe. But then there's also, you have platforms that are, say, decentralized, where there's some sort of moderation system, but it's not necessarily censorship, because you can still access the content, but it doesn't necessarily show up in, say, search results or something to that effect.
Yeah, which I'm okay with. I don't show up my website. It never showed up in safe search results on Google because it had the word shemale in the title.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was anarchistshemale.com.
Interesting.
And they didn't approve of that. So no matter what, you had to turn safe search off in order to find it, which I assume most people do anyway, because otherwise your search results kind of suck.
Here's a question. I was under the impression that Google does not have safe search on by default. Am I mistaken?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I do not know.
I know other search engines do, but I'm not sure that Google does.
It's worth looking into.
It is.
Well, we'll be back. We're going to look into that, and we'll carry on with more of this discussion, so don't go anywhere. This is the Call to Freedom. What's happening tonight is Aria Uncensored, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On this channel, I will be topless, so tune in for that. Welcome back. God, that is getting really annoying. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. I'm your host, Aria DeMezzo of Aria Uncensored, which returns tonight for the second episode at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just after Free Talk Live. You can watch that at dlive.lrn.fm or twitch.lrn.fm. And I'm joined in the studio today by
Christopher Wade of thinkpenguin.com and our new tech show, Freedom Decrypted.
How's that going?
It's going great. We've gotten 32 2, I think, episodes so far.
Sweet.
And we're adding all sorts of new features to the site. You can subscribe to us on Mastodon. We've got SSL certificate we fixed where live streams were having to self-sign, I think, possibly for who knows how long. And we've got some new promos on the show now that are pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I seem to recall you starting Freedom Decrypted right around the time that, I moved formally to New Hampshire.
Yeah, the show's been going.
You should be at 52 weeks.
Going a while.
Mid-July-ish?
It's been, I want to say, honestly, I don't know, but I think it's been at least since the summer, at least since the summertime. It's been a slow getting off the ground. Just because
you're doing one episode a week, it's going to be a little slow.
It's one episode a week, and it took a while to get all the equipment, and I set up a whole studio for it, and so it's more it's time consuming. I didn't have a studio to just sit down at. We're still getting things, improving things. It's all decentralized too, so that also has added a little bit of work. We're not relying on the YouTubes and the Twitches and then so forth. One of the main things I wanted to do with the show is not be dependent on other entities out there. I didn't want to give anybody else control over, the show.
So how are you acquiring listeners? Because I'll be honest, that's the only reason I reactivated my Facebook account was to promote my stuff.
Yeah, so it's not something I don't plan to do, but it's not what we're doing now. And the only reason we'll probably eventually go ahead and stream to YouTube or make shows available on YouTube is to get additional listeners.
Right.
But the first thing I wanted to do was prioritize the decentralization aspect of it. So we're going to be on Library at some point. The videos are going to be able to show up there. As an example, I'm working on that.
The issue I had with Library was that our files turned out to just be too massive for me to keep indefinitely.
I gotcha.
And you kind of have to.
Yeah.
I mean, once people start downloading them, if you're the size of Free Talk Live, you might get 50, 60 downloads per episode, and you can delete your copy because other people presumably will maintain theirs for long enough for it's kind of like torrenting.
Well, we're already maintaining copies of every single episode, but it's only a once a week show, so it's not really too bad, and we have more space and storage than we could possibly ever need. We're not renting storage. We have a fiber internet connection and our own servers, so it isn't a huge expense to do that. There is a relay server for streaming, so if we get too many people to support it on a 20 megabit per second fiber line, we can still continue to have as many.
That's it, 20 megabit per second.
It's enough to. Yeah, it's enough. It's enough.
Interesting. I had issues. I had issues when I was at 100 megabits a second. We're at 400 now, and I no longer have those issues. In fact, I can up quality significantly.
So back up. Was it 400 asynchronous or synchronous?
I don't know.
So, okay, if you have a 400 megabits per second connection and you have a 5 megabits per second connection up, that's not the same thing as having a 20 megabits per second connection up. 20 megabits per second connection up is
the upstream is 100 megabits per second.
Okay, so why would you have a problem then?
I don't now. That's what I was saying. In fact, I can up the quality significantly on my gaming streams without running into an
20
issue.
Megabit per second connection is probably going to be able to do 4 1080p streams live.
In my experience, they call it
but
20 megabits per second, but you're more likely to get something like 4.
Yeah, so that's not the case because this is fiber and not like cable or ADSL. Mostly that's cable actually, but so the up speed's not the problem, and you have to remember that's the whole point of the live. If there's most likely people are going to be streaming live. That's where you need the bandwidth, the simultaneous bandwidth, because that's where you're going to have the most number of people basically downloading the show at any one time. So you don't necessarily need a whole lot of up bandwidth for just random hours. It's just during the show live, and during the live part of it is going through a relay server. So you only need like maybe 10 megabits a second to do that. To a relay server, and then the relay server has as much bandwidth as you could possibly need because there's gigabits per second of bandwidth available from that.
Right.
So
I found out, I only just recently found out about those relay servers for streaming because I was frustrated that OBS Studio won't let me stream to YouTube, Twitch, and DLive at the same time. I had to pick one.
Yeah.
Unless I was going to buy vMix for $600, which isn't worth it to me to just do my gaming streams once a week.
You don't need to do that. So there's different ways to do a relive stream. I did two. One I used, I think it's called Media Ant. And then it's one of them options. And then there's like a free version. And then there's also you could just set up a server with Nginx or maybe even Apache. Nginx is actually a common one to use though. And Nginx will basically, it's just a matter of a small configuration file and it will just relay to whatever other people can access the stream directly on that relay server, or it can relay it onwards to YouTube and Twitch and all the others. And usually people have to do that because they don't have enough upload on their internet connection to get 4 or 5 different Twitch and YouTube and everything else. They just don't have the bandwidth to stream to each one of those individually. Right. So they have to use a relay. In our case,
I certainly do.
We probably would not have to use a relay with a 20 megabit per second up connection. For that, if we did not want to, have more of a direct connection to people, but YouTube is going to be taking over, and Twitch is going to be taking over most of the bandwidth that would be needed that people are listening to. If we wanted to upload to each one.
Well,
of those
at a certain point, they will. I don't know about YouTube, but I know Twitch won't transcode all videos. They seem to sort of do it randomly if you're not a verified partner. Like, we get a lot of
Are you
quality.
talking about storage, or are you talking about the live stream?
I'm talking about the live stream. We get a lot of complaints about the Twitch live stream because sometimes it's just a raw video feed that Twitch is sending to people, which of course is massive, right?
Right. So if they're not re-encoding it live, right now we only do a 1080p stream.
Sweet. We do 720p here.
Yeah, I mean, we do a 1080p stream. I figure most people are going to have a connection nowadays that's going to be capable of that, because you really don't need that much. You only need about, I think, 5 to 8 megabits a second in order to do 1080p. Yeah. So it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Now, you wouldn't be able to do that on, say, a smartphone connection, cellular, obviously.
Well, I don't know. Sprint's 4G LTE was super fast. 1080, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 4 gigabytes for a 3-hour show. Yeah. You probably are going to eat up your bandwidth or your data cap.
But Sprint lets people have unlimited data because they're stupid, and then they block and close people's accounts for using too much of the unlimited data.
I think the unlimited data, you might have. I don't know. You might have issues with unlimited data plans because they're.
I certainly have. I have been through that with Sprint, where they shut down my account and tried to keep my business phone line from me and the phone number from me, and tried to get me to send back my paid-for phone because I was using about 400 gigabytes a month of which is a lot of cellular data, but it was unlimited.
Yeah.
But they have something buried in the contract, like they reserve the right to terminate any accounts that they deem to be damaging to their network. And sure, for the area, I was probably using up 60-70% of the total bandwidth.
Yeah, so Freedom Decrypted also has, we basically release a Ogvorbiz stream, which is just an audio stream, and an MP3, not a stream, a download. It's only available afterward, as well as a smaller video file as well. That's WebM, so as well as MP4. So
very cool. Well, this is the Call to Freedom. We're going to end the tech discussion here and get back into TikTok. And India deciding that, to protect the kids, they have to do away with this.
It's all for the kids.
It's all for the kids. And this is the Call to Freedom. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. And I don't know if you heard any of that, but we ended up back on the subject of Manning and WikiLeaks, which is fine. Apparently, the government is charging him officially. I keep wanting to say her because it's just so closely tied to Chelsea Manning in my head.
Julian Assange has the big white beard.
Yeah.
It's a little hard
Chelsea Manning might have a big white beard, too.
Oh, no, she does not.
But she could. Was I just transphobic? I feel like I was probably just transphobic.
I mean, is that not allowed? If you're trans, you're not allowed to have a big white beard.
I guess you could have a big white beard.
I mean, can you call yourself trans if you're if you have some male features as well as female features?
Well, I hope so. Okay. I'm certainly not full of feminine features.
Right.
So I would hope so. I don't have a beard, though. So there is that. But, so yeah, apparently, my chest is really hurting for some reason. Apparently, this is not a good day for the show, apparently.
Good thing it's our last segment.
Or not.
Apparently,
I'll just sit over here dying live for people to watch.
Oh, no, don't die on us.
Yeah, are you going to live?
Yeah, I will live. I just need somebody to talk so I don't have to for a minute.
Okay.
I'll talk.
Why don't we, do we want to continue with the story? We'll just continue with the story.
Yeah. What happened with the Tik-Tok then? Or Julian Assange or something?
Do you want to talk about Julian Assange? So why don't we talk about Julian Assange? So Julian Assange was charged. We're having a debate here of whether or not he even committed a conspiracy, because apparently, so one of the titles on Slashdot here that I'm reading, I got the title, is U.S. government admits it doesn't know if Assange cracked the password for Manning, and he's charged with conspiracy. The problem is, if conspiracy is basically assisting somebody in commission of whatever the crime is. So theoretically, if this is kind of like saying he thought about, being the getaway driver for somebody robbing a bank, but he didn't actually drive the getaway car.
Well, it's not like that. Yeah. He tried to drive the getaway car, but it wouldn't start.
And then he didn't. So
well, the headline is kind of vague. It could be that they don't know whether or not he attempted to crack the password versus they don't know whether or not he could successfully cracked it.
But cracking the password is not, unless you crack the password and give that password to Manning, it's not contributing to the furtherance of the crime, which is hacking. So,
well, that's why it's conspiracy.
So if you try and fail
that's what
to commit a crime, it's not committing a crime. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is it can't be conspiracy if he didn't actually contribute in some way to the hacking charge.
But he conspired.
No, he didn't.
Well,
he made the attempt.
He said that he conspired.
No, he didn't make the attempt. He
said he made the attempt. That's what's in the warrant.
This is more like thinking about making the attempt, because
he didn't think about making the attempt.
No,
he said he made the attempt.
No, because conspiracy would be if he had actually cracked the password and then handed the password to the person who actually hacked the system.
I don't think he had to be successful in order for it to qualify as conspiracy.
No, because he didn't actually conspire. In order to conspire with, you would actually have to participate in some way that assisted the person who actually did the crime.
That's what he did not do.
That. He did not attempt.
He and Manning conspired together to crack the password on the government computer.
Okay, so first of all, there's a difference between hacking and and cracking. Even if he, I don't think so.
They attempted to bypass security restrictions on the computer in order to access classified information. If you don't want to use the term hacking, I prefer the term hacking because it's concise, and I don't want to say that 2.5 sentence long description every single time I make reference to what they did.
I don't think that
cracking the password.
I don't think that cracking the password would be conspiracy. I think he would have had to have actually handed the password to Manning in order for it to be conspiracy.
So you're saying he had to be successful?
That's for conspiracy. For hacking, he would have actually had to have connected to the system in order for him to get the hacking
he's not being charged with hacking.
Right, he's not. That's true.
He's being charged with conspiracy to gain unrestricted access.
At what point does it become conspiracy? Okay, if you're thinking about it, if it's only in your head, is it conspiracy? Probably not. I think that we're safe to say that that's not conspiracy, right? You would agree with that?
I really hope so, based on a lot of the porn I've watched in my life.
Right. So the question is, if you take steps that might help, but then don't help because obviously he was not successful in cracking the password, is that conspiracy?
The government thinks it is.
He didn't actually help.
I mean, I think technically it is conspiracy. He was conspiring with Chelsea Manning to gain access to the computer.
But I think conspiracy is more than just having a discussion with somebody about a crime that you may or may not.
But he did more than have a discussion. That's the point.
I don't think so, because it wasn't. He didn't actually have any. He didn't take any steps to actually furtherance of the crime of hacking.
Running John the Ripper is not taking an action.
Cracking the password in and of itself is not furtherance of the crime of hacking. It
is if he was doing it on behalf of the person who was going to be accessing the computer with the cracked password.
I think if he actually contributed, to say he contributed, which is what conspiracy would be, he would have actually had to hand over the password to Manning.
I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
And I don't think that's what conspiring means. I don't think it's...
So what do you think conspiring means? Because I think conspiring, under your definition, then, would be a thought crime.
Yes. By definition, It would be a thought crime. That's why I'm not a fan of the government having anti-conspiracy laws in the first place.
I'm against the idea of conspiracy as well, but I don't necessarily... I think that conspiracy is a little bit more nuanced than that, which makes it not quite a thought crime. It is a thought crime still, I guess, but I would say that it's a little bit more nuanced than just thinking about or even writing something down. There has to then also be a component that connects you to the other person who is going to commit an actual crime.
What, did he not do that?
No, he did not actually surrender any kind of password to Manning.
That's true, but then it wouldn't have been conspiracy to access it.
No, it would be, because he still is not hacking. He's not the one hacking.
No, then it would
Julian never hacked.
Then it would be facilitating the hacking of the government computer. It would be.
Is there another charge that's called facilitating besides conspiracy?
Yeah, being an accomplice. Absolutely. There's a huge difference between being an accomplice and being charged as a conspirator.
Interesting. I would love to see the difference, the two laws, and compare them. Because
we can't really get into that. But
yeah, I don't think
I know we don't have time for that, but I would still be very interested in seeing what the distinction, like what distinguishes the two, from a legal standpoint, because that's just
an accomplice differs from an accessory.
Okay.
Which is not necessarily related to conspiracy.
Wow, so there's an even nuanced difference between accomplice and accessory.
In that an accomplice is present at the actual crime and could be prosecuted even if the main criminal is not charged or convicted. An accessory is generally not present and may be subject to lesser penalty. So he would have been an accessory, apparently, because he would not have been present at the actual commission of the quote-unquote crime of gaining access to the government computer.
I feel like he didn't have anything to do with the hacking charge, though. That's the problem.
I don't think he did either. I think it's all BS being drummed up by the government, and I think that's why they invented conspiracy charges in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Call to Freedom. We're going to go troll the ACLU, but don't go anywhere. Free Talk Live is coming up shortly, and right after that is Aria Uncensored, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM, broadcast as always from the Liberty Radio studios here in Keene, New Hampshire. And there's I'm being pulled in a number of different directions now by the news and, of course, the D-Live chat, which the topic has sort of been religion through the last segment, and that's the Discord server in the on-air room for the first time in months is actually having a conversation related to what we've been discussing on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm stunned. But I've got two other items that I really want to dig into. One physicist is saying that travel through wormholes is possible, but very slow. And others are saying it's impossible.
I thought wormholes were like pretty much
I looked
at one side of the universe and then you're on the other.
Yeah, I looked through the article. There was no explanation of why they would be slow. But it's essentially the idea that it takes longer to circumnavigate the Earth than it would be to just pass through the center of it. You know, assuming you weren't going to be crushed to death by pressure and all of that kind of stuff, which you would be, but disregarding all of that.
Just like I thought a wormhole was going to be like a bypass, not the scenic route.
Yeah, well, what they're saying is exactly that it's going to be a scenic route, so to speak. Now, the entire concept of a wormhole, which science fiction really loves, is that you can have these two places where you punch a hole in the fabric of space-time and connect these two places directly. Sort of like connecting China and the United States by digging a hole directly through the center of the Earth.
Sort of, right.
In theory, it would be a lot faster to just go through the center than it would be to walk all the way around.
Yeah.
And what they're
alleging
alleging,
with the gravity assist.
Yeah, and what they're alleging in regard to wormholes is that, we can go right through and bypass the actual travel of the fabric of space-time. Or at least that's what's been theorized. I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other because I did not finish my college degree for general relativity. I instead moved on to IT, so I'm not knowledgeable enough on the subject to have an opinion. But
it's still interesting to keep up.
Yeah, most of the conversation hinges around black holes, which is a term that continues to bother me because a lot of people think that every black hole is a wormhole, which is stupid because black holes aren't holes in the first place. They are stars. They are collapsed stars.
And they are big.
Yeah. They are. Well,
they're massive.
Yeah, there we go. They are massive, and that's why they become condensed to this point. But yeah, so the general idea is that, and it's true, a black hole could very well be a rupture in the space-time continuum. Technically, it is, because it has infinite gravitational pull and infinite temperature. And that's, as far as we know, would punch a hole through space-time. But in order to create one of these wormholes ourselves, we would have to be able to create an actual black hole, which, of course, is not something that one can actually travel to.
Well, we can't just whip one of those up at CERN?
Well, we can, but they're tiny, and they dissipate immediately within seconds. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny, like atoms.
Like a
type
few
of
atoms.
size,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's not very useful.
Singularity on Twitch says that black holes are stars that are power bottoms. I don't know why.
What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. It seems to be a follow-up to a question about would a post-op trans chick go back in time to have sex with themselves pre-op, which is something I've never given any thought whatsoever to.
No.
How does this happen? We have not mentioned anything regarding transsexualism today, and now on both streaming services, that's what it is. And that's sort of why I put it in the iTunes description. Because, if people are going to work that angle, we might as well, too. It's what people want.
Might as well run with it, right?
Yeah. Other interesting news, of course, is that Israeli scientists have printed the world's first 3D heart with human tissue. I have not clicked on that, but the more amusing thing is that a man is suing his parents for throwing out his porn. And he does not seem to be happy about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy about that either, but I also don't have a VHS porn collection.
No, this is a staggering collection of porn. And from the point of view of his parents, I get it. He's an adult, so I don't think they should be parenting still to that extent.
No.
But I get why they're trying to be like, hey, man, this is a problem. You have a porn addiction, and it's gone back since you were in high school. So coming to us from the New York Daily News, as if moving back in with your parents isn't humbling enough, this person took 12 moving boxes full of pornography with him.
Well, that's not so bad.
That is a lot of porn, though. But a Michigan man whose parents took him in after his divorce is suing them for throwing away his stash of porn. He's asking for $86,000, which is more than 3 times what he valued it at, according to court papers obtained in Michigan, which doesn't name the plaintiff or defendants.
I wonder why.
He reportedly moved into his parents' Grand Haven, Michigan home in October of 2016 while he was going through a divorce. He brought with him a porn collection worth an estimated $29,000. That is so much porn.
That is a lot of porn.
I don't understand. Porn is available for free on the internet, right?
Yeah, it's free. You go to Pornhub, YouPorn, RedTube, you name it. There's all kinds of free porn out there.
I prefer XNXX.
XNXX, X-Hamster. I mean, we could go on and on.
We could indeed. Anyway, the porn collector moved to Indiana within a year, where his parents delivered his belongings to him, minus the porn. Wanting to be reunited with his erotica, the man allegedly fired off an email to his parents, blaming them of behaving vindictively rather than trying to address the issue with them. If you had a problem with my belongings, you should have stated that at the time and I would have gone elsewhere, he reportedly wrote. His father allegedly wrote back saying he destroyed the material for his son's own good.
Oh.
Believe it or not, one reason for why I destroyed your porn was for your own mental and emotional health. I would have done the same if I had found a kilo of crack cocaine.
Oh, really?
I could get...
So wait. This guy thinks that having porn is the same as smoking crack.
Well, if the guy has a $29,000 porn collection, I would say that he does have an addiction.
Well, I got the impression that he was actually selling this stuff.
Well, he was when he was earlier, but this was his collection.
His personal okay.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that he's running an actual business. Now, I don't condone the destruction of somebody else's property, obviously.
No.
I think the parents probably, if they intended to address this issue, they should have done it before he was an adult. But he is an adult now. And destroying his property is pretty messed up.
Yeah, that's there's not really a good excuse for that.
But the father expressed that it was his hope that his son would one day appreciate what he did. Someday, I hope you will understand. The man reportedly complained to police, but authorities declined to press criminal charges.
Oh.
So he did it again, and they again declined. Now,
you can't get the cops to actually charge somebody with a crime when you want them to. They do that on their own.
Yeah, but from what I would gather in all of this is that, he left his property there, clearly, and they destroyed it. I don't think that it's a criminal offense to destroy property that was left
abandoned.
Yeah. And I mean, sure,
it probably isn't.
It was technically his property and all of that. But possession being 9/10 of the law, at that time, it was his parents' pornography.
Was it really abandoned, though? Because they returned all of his other stuff.
Yeah, they did. And I don't approve of the destruction of porn, but it sucks for this guy. I don't think anything is going to happen with it. He's certainly not getting $89,000. This is the Call to Freedom, and we'll be back with more of this discussion, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. As always, I'd like to remind you that our podcasts have moved. For those people complaining about the commercials, they're on D Live. I feel you. Really, I do. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just one of the things about being on radio is that there are commercials. But they're not included in our podcast, which you can find at calltofreedomlive.podbean.com. And you can listen to the entire show. The music beds are still there for when we come back and go out and things like that. So it's still interrupted to a degree, but there are certainly no commercials in it. I'm not a fan of ads and commercials and stuff like that either, but they pay the bills here at LRN. So
yeah, somebody's got to pay for the studio, the equipment, the lights, the dump box, the microphones and cameras and all this other, the gigabit spectrum and all that other stuff.
But I mean, plus, even if it wasn't for all of that, even if all of it was somehow paid for through other means, there's still the fact that being broadcast on radio means that there are going to be commercials there anyway.
Right.
That might be playing us on 102.7 FM or whatever. They are still going to cut out our show and put commercials there, and at the exact same time slots.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just what happens when you're on the radio, because this is a radio show that just happens to also be broadcast to Twitch and YouTube.
And D-Live.
And D-Live, yeah. That was what I meant. But we're joined now by Jaku, who has thoughts on time travel. that he would like to discuss with us. Jarku, what are those thoughts?
Hello. Basically, I graduated university in quantum physics, which isn't too much to do with time travel, but gives. I know my physics, and basically, I discovered. This is been a little side project of mine for a while, but I discovered that if time travel was possible, which I believe it is, you could only go forward in time and never ever could go back in time, no matter what the consequences are, at least in our universe.
Well, I mean...
It's very disappointing.
Technically, sure. And we know that time travel into the future is possible.
Well, we're all going forward. I mean...
But, it's not just that. The astronauts orbiting Earth, because they're traveling faster, they are...
a billionth of a second.
Yeah, but they are on a different time schedule than we are.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you accelerate yourself to 99% of the speed of light for a while, and then you come back, just relativity there, you've aged a week, and everyone on Earth has aged 10 years or whatever.
I don't know if the numbers are that stark. I think you got to get to 99.97% of the speed of light in order to start getting results like that. But certainly, the faster you go, the faster your travel through time, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to be in the right ballpark.
Yeah, so you can leave Earth, orbit around at some infinitesimal fraction of the speed of light, and then come back, and you will be younger than the people who were not going that fast. It's what general relativity is all about. But I assume that's not what you were referring to.
Yeah, I think you got something else in mind, right?
Yeah, not completely, because what that is, that everyone, it's kind of becoming common knowledge now that you do in fact age faster when you're traveling around space, but it's not as fast as people would think. It's only a few seconds or minutes over a span of being in space for a month. But I've discovered that
right.
I've discovered that you can take advantage of basically there's lots of nothing in space. But when there is something like floating rocks, atoms, most of the atoms in space are positively, the ions in the atoms are positively charged, which means you can take advantage of that. And if you find a way to use these atoms to create energy, time will actually speed up around you. I know that sounds crazy, but you're going to have to believe me here. That sounds really far-fetched, but yeah.
Now, how would that be advantageous versus orbiting a black hole just outside of the event horizon?
Well, orbiting a black hole is very dangerous.
Well, that's true.
There's a lot. Yeah,
that is a good point.
Yeah.
But in theory, you could maintain enough momentum and never actually cross over the event horizon and end up trapped there. But in theory, you could do it. It would require a lot of momentum, certainly.
You'd have to be quite far from the event horizon.
But if we have the energy and the technology to do that, what benefit would there be versus using these positively charged atoms to achieve the same effect?
Well, because we can't really go back in time, there's nothing that can really benefit us. But obviously, we could send people out to go to the future and learn about, when I'm talking about this, you could be in space or it doesn't even need to be in space. As long as you have these atoms which have positively charged ions, you could travel forward years in seconds. It's an insane amount of time. But
sure, but we couldn't learn from that or anything like that because they wouldn't be able to reach back in time to convey that information to us.
One way I like to explain this is keep in mind. So at the moment, we would think about how much time is ahead of us in the future. It's infinite. There's for what we know, time isn't stopping anytime soon.
Well, time's not stopping, but the stars will burn out eventually.
Yeah. But if time backwards time travel was possible, we would have time travelers all around us.
Whether time is infinite or finite really depends on whether the universe itself is finite or infinite. And as I'm aware, we don't actually have an answer to that yet.
Yeah. Well,
both propositions are equally mind-bending for different reasons. The idea of an infinite universe and an infinite amount of time is certainly hard to wrap one's head around, but I think the only thing probably harder than that is the idea of a finite universe and a finite time.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff is very, unstable. It's not like we could really harness any of this power for the next 10, 20, 30, even 30 years. But because I've been studying this since 2013, I built a time travel machine myself, and I went forward 2 years.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Okay, well, that was a nice setup.
Well, I mean, it didn't go off the rails like I expected. He did identify very clearly that he was not actually a physicist by his mentioning of time and traveling forward and things like that. That's not the way in which physicists speak. Which is unfortunate. I would have loved the idea of an actual physicist calling into the show, but no one has a degree in quantum physics. I think that was the big giveaway for me, because I actually did major in physics, and it fractured into quantum mechanics or general relativity. Actually, at that particular school, it fractured into audio physics or oral physics. I can't even remember now the exact terminology they used, or general relativity. And of course, I went with general relativity, but was not willing to dedicate the next 8 years of my life to doing it. So I went with something a little bit more practical. And then, graduating with a freaking doctorate as an expert in general relativity, my only real options as far as employment goes would have been to teach general relativity. I am not a teacher.
Not too many jobs in industry for.
No, there would have been some if I had chosen the acoustic physics. I don't know why I couldn't think about that. The acoustic physics approach. There certainly would have been Bose and all of these other companies. They hire extensively out of the University of Mississippi's acoustic physics program because it's the best in the United States. Probably the best in the world. But it's a very limited niche of physics, and it's not something that I was particularly interested in. So, time travel, it's certainly a thing that people like talking about. Again, I mean, he was spot on. It is dangerous indeed to orbit a black hole. I hated chemistry. I absolutely hated chemistry. So when we start talking about positively charged ions and things like that, I essentially do the same thing that I did during college and tune it out. So I don't know what the status is about because he's not wrong. There are atoms and molecules floating around more or less randomly throughout the universe, right? It's not ever going to be purely empty space.
They're out there, and your spaceship is going to run into them.
Yeah, but I mean, it's irrelevant. I mean, for the most part, and he's already left. Yeah, that was so stupid. What a waste of time. But yeah, so there is stuff out there. I don't know whether these atoms are positively charged or negatively charged, nor do I really care because it has no bearing on our daily lives. We're going to get back to this discussion about the man suing his parents for getting rid of his porn collection. So don't go anywhere. This is The Call to Freedom. Welcome back. This is The Call to Freedom. I'm your host, as always, Aria Mezzo, composer of the music you're hearing right now, which you can listen to at soundcloud.com/Aria de Mezzo. So you can hear the full songs there at least. I think they're the only two songs I've actually uploaded at this point because it's a new SoundCloud account due to needing to change my URL. Anyway, I'm joined in the studio today by
Michael Hampton from BitcoinHistory.com.
God, I hate these freaking... If I want to subscribe to your publication, I will subscribe to your publication. And you know what that music means. It's been a while since we went through the effort of playing it. But that means there's libertarian drama to be had. This particular drama brought to you by Jonathan Dunker and, God, his name's not in front of me, and for some stupid reason, I closed out of that particular tab for some reason. So our patrons over at patreon.com/Call to Freedom are actually bringing this to you. Apparently, Bill Weld, after promising lifelong, loyalty to the Libertarian Party, has officially announced that he is challenging Trump for the GOP nomination in 2020.
As a Republican.
For the GOP nomination. Yeah, I thought that was included.
Just to be absolutely crystal clear, because we apparently have an international audience, so they may not immediately recognize what the GOP means.
Well, yeah, and Bill Weld is a Republican. I would really hope that this is going to end the love affair between the Libertarian Party and washed-up Republicans. But I'm not going to hold my breath. There's no kinship between Republicans and Libertarians. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's not that much, no.
It doesn't happen with the Democratic Party. We're not constantly reaching out to washed-up Democrats going, hey, why don't you join us? We agree with you on all of these different things. Yeah, but we do it to Republicans.
I don't know.
But former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld announced today that he is officially entering the race for president, becoming the first Republican to challenge President Donald Trump in the 2020 race. I'm just happy this means we'll still end up having to deal with him as the Libertarian candidate in 2020. I'm sure
because he probably won't beat Trump in the primary.
No, but Gary Johnson attempted to run as a Republican in the primaries, I think in 2016 and 2012. Mm-hmm. And both times after failing, he was like, well, I'll just run as a Libertarian then. Which is pretty much what I expect from Bill Weld. He's going to lose the primary challenge to Trump, and then he will come back to the Libertarian Party, and he'll make up some kind of excuse about how he just totally believed that Trump had to be stopped. So he just had to sacrifice his quote-unquote principles.
Yeah, had to do it because, we have to get rid of Trump, right?
Ours is a nation built on courage, resilience, and independence. In these times of great political strife, when both major parties are entrenched in their win-at-all-cost battles, the voices of the American people are being ignored and our nation is suffering. Well, who had previously formed an exploratory committee, said in a statement. Now, this is Bill Weld, former vice presidential candidate of the Libertarian Party, and
he ran as
shill for Hillary Clinton. He sucks, saying both major parties. Not even a nod to the Libertarian Party. It is time for patriotic men and women across our great nation to stand and plant a flag. It is time to return to the principles of Lincoln. Well, Trump has certainly done that.
Yeah, Trump's doing pretty well at that.
Especially with the arrest of Assange that happened last week. He's playing out of Lincoln's book.
Yeah, arrest all the journalists.
Equality, dignity, and opportunity for all. There is no greater cause on earth to preserve what truly makes America great. I am ready to lead that fight. So, good riddance to you, Bill Weld. I hope you're stupid enough to come to New Hampshire, and I hope you're stupid enough on top of that to come to Keene.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is actually I don't know. Will the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire actually give him grief?
I will. I don't care whether or not they do. I'm not affiliated with any Libertarian Party, but I will. Good God.
That'll be worth watching.
It would make me so happy because New Hampshire is a hotbed. We're the first primary in the nation, so we get a lot of visitors. Beto has already been here. Sanders has already been here.
Yep.
A number of...
And they'll have to come back.
People have already been here. Yeah, and they'll be back. I hope that Bill Weld is going to be among them. And Keene is absolutely one of the cities that they enjoy visiting. I would love to attend a Bill Weld event. I don't care if I have to take the night off work to do it. I'm going to do it. Even if I don't get the night off and I have to just not go, I have to troll Bill Weld.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just sucks that much. And he does. Him and Gary Johnson both. I cannot stand either one of them. They're both little fish in a big pond, and so they want to jump to a smaller pond where they are bigger fish. Bill Weld, you have not been relevant since you were governor of Massachusetts. You were certainly not relevant when you ran for vice president of the Libertarian Party. And you're not going to be relevant after this. Now, I know that the Libertarian Party will forgive you. They forgave you when you endorsed Hillary. We still have people to this day saying that Bill Weld did not endorse Hillary Clinton.
Huh.
He just vouched for her.
Well, what's the difference?
And he was totally out against Trump. You know, that was what their campaign became about, is stopping Trump. And at the same time, he's like, oh, and by the way, Hillary, she's a good person. I will vouch for Hillary. But no, you're totally not endorsing her. So that's Bill Weld. Shill. Sucks. Should go away. Should probably go away.
Goodbye.
Yeah, but he won't. He will lose the presidential primary
pretty badly.
Campaign. Yeah. It's going to be funny to see that happen. Yeah. And then he will go, oh, well, I'm the original libertarian. I'm a lifelong member. I'm going to run for a presidential campaign of the Libertarian Party.
This guy has not been a libertarian for.
He's gun-grabbing Weld. He's as unlibertarian as a person can get, and this is Massachusetts that he was governor of.
Right.
I've never heard anything positive about Massachusetts.
I've never heard anything positive about Bill Weld.
Good point. I have not either. I did remember watching him say that you could remove a clip from an AR-15 and turn it into an automatic weapon, and that was entertaining. Oh, good God, yes. And it was on some libertarian show that he made these insane claims, like 17 minutes into it.
That's stupid.
I think the word he used was weapon of mass destruction, that you could just remove a pin from an AR-15 and it became a weapon of mass destruction. Gun-grabbing Weld, man. And he was the Libertarian Party's vice presidential candidate. Because they thought, oh, well, he'll bring in big donors. And that's why, do you want James Weeks stripping down to his thong and dancing on stage? Because that's how you get James Weeks stripping down to his thong and dancing on stage.
And we already had that. We don't need it again.
No, I don't need to see that again. I mean, I kind of do.
So please stop sending
humorous
us the
purposes.
Video.
Well, no, keep sending me the video. I enjoy laughing about it. But we need something new. Now, that is how you get the tranny, and James Weeks doing a striptease together on the stage. Let Bill Weld become the presidential candidate in 2020, and you will have me dancing naked, or mostly naked, on the stage to just chase away all of the Republican money that they're trying to get.
On C-SPAN.
On C-SPAN, yes, absolutely. Because if it's not broadcast on C-SPAN, well, they're a terrorist network now, according to the French government, so it may not be on C-SPAN. I imagine once they have me dancing in a thong on national television, that it will be considered a terrorist network here as well.
Hey, you dancing is a terrorist act.
No, this is terrorism. We cannot condone this. We can't have this. So that's Bill Weld. That's the libertarian drama. He has finally announced that he is going to seek the Republican nomination against President Trump, and nobody expects that to end well, except apparently him. This is the Call to Freedom. We're going to move on to different topics, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom. As always, you're invited to give us a call. That number is 603-283-6160. Again, that's 603-283-6160. Or you can use the Discord call-in lines, which you can find at discord.lrn.fm. You can also join in on the chat there. Hopefully, you're watching us on our new D-Live, on the new D-Live platform, which you can find at dlive.lrn.fm. And where they're currently having a discussion about whether or not women are a gender or property. It's a troll question. It's a troll joke. Basically, there's only one gender: women are property. You know, it's a troll joke. So I asked, "Am I property or a man?" right?
Right.
Because the same kind of person who makes jokes like that generally is going to be transphobic. So no answer other than I don't know. That's disappointing. I was looking forward to the hilarity. You let me down, Memphis.
Yeah, well, you know...
I'm actually from Memphis. Are you? Well, more or less.
South of Memphis.
Yeah. But I mean, I spent a lot of time in Memphis.
Of course, everything south of Memphis is also in Mississippi. So.
That's true. So, we covered last week a Chinese person. I don't even know why I said national there, just because that's how the media describes her. I've never referred to anybody as a national. But so this Chinese chick was arrested at the Mar-a-Lago Institute, or whatever it is. It's a hotel. It's a club.
It's Trump's little country club.
Yeah, after apparently paying $20,000 for a tour that was... Yeah, I didn't think you were in Memphis. Sorry to have tied you to being transphobic. But she apparently paid $20,000 for a tour that included a visit to Mar-a-Lago or something like that. I don't know exactly the specifics on that. But Mark Edge was with us last week talking about it and about how these people, they buy these trips and things like that, and they don't even know, what they're doing. But apparently when she was arrested, they found 5 SIM cards in her hotel room, 9 USB drives, and a signal detector that would be used to detect hidden cameras.
Ooh.
All of this kind of does, and a lot of cash. Quite a lot of cash. So she may, in fact, have been a spy.
Yeah, that tourists don't usually carry that sort of stuff around.
And at least one of those USB drives had malware on it.
Yep.
We still don't know what the malware did, but the Secret Service agent, brilliant and highly trained Secret Service agent,
idiot,
plugged it directly into his laptop. I wonder what could possibly go wrong.
Nothing could ever go wrong.
But she was in court today, and a federal judge ordered her detention after she was arrested trying to enter the private Mar-a-Lago club. It does appear to the court that Miss Tsang was up to something nefarious, Magistrate Judge William Matthewman said at the federal courthouse, adding that he considers Zhang, 33, a flight risk and believes she would return to China if released before trial. Maybe.
Yeah.
So if this lady wants to go back to her home country, I don't know why we wouldn't let her.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That to me seems stupid. Okay, well, we're worried she's going to leave the country. Okay, well, she didn't do anything wrong. She may or may not have attempted to, but she was clearly caught before she was able to.
Right.
So why not just let the bitch go back home?
So what did they arrest her for then?
Doing something nefarious, apparently.
Which section of the U.S. Code is that?
It's the part where they point to and they say, see, we want to arrest you, so we're going to, and because we're the state, we can do that. It's that part of the code. I think they call it the Constitution because it's about as effective and about as useful.
Well, that's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. Matthewman said the weight of the evidence against Tsang, who pleaded not guilty Monday to the charges of making false statements to federal officers and entering restricted property. So those are her charges. Making false statements to the feds and entering private property. Yeah. Trespassing.
And making false statements is what they charge you for when they literally don't have anything else.
Although no allegations of espionage have been made against her, federal prosecutor Rolando Garcia said more charges are still possible. The FBI is treating her case as a national security matter. Of course they are. That's what they do. They go, oh, this is national security. Yep. We have to hold this woman without trial and without bail because it's national security.
Yep, it sure is.
Go ahead and throw her in Gitmo with the rest of the people being held for national security reasons. Her arrest raised questions about security at Mar-a-Lago and whether foreign adversaries could seek to penetrate the president's Palm Beach club. She was stopped there at March the 30th. She says she was there to attend an event and was carrying what the U.S. Secret Service described as a thumb drive containing malicious malware. Oh, God, that hurt my soul to read. Malicious malware.
What?
What do they think the MAL stands for?
They don't know.
It stands for malicious. It's malicious where? Malicious software. Malware.
Come on.
God, they're so stupid. What do you expect from an agency who has, agents who just plug in this malicious malware and hope for the best?
Which they were trained not to do.
People's grandmothers are trained not to do that. They're so stupid. More feds. But during Monday's hearing, prosecutors acknowledged the malware could have been a false positive. Oh, dear God, they don't even know.
What? What false positive? It infected this guy's laptop.
Well, it started installing a file. That could be pretty standard. If you plug in a flash drive into a computer that's never had a flash drive plugged into it at any point, it will install the USB drivers.
It'll install the drivers, sure.
That may have been what it was. If he was stupid enough to plug in a strange person's USB drive, I wouldn't put it past him to go, oh no, it's installing something, the drivers that make it usable, and unplug it.
Well, and I don't think that's what happened, because if this guy is plugging random USB drives in his laptop, it's not the first time he's done it.
Well, yeah, but it's also port specific. It may have 3 USB ports on that laptop, and this is the first time he's ever used that one. It could be. It's very unlikely. And I think even then it would have to be Windows XP or older to even get that notification. I think Vista and beyond just do it automatically, and unless you look for it, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, there's like a little tiny icon in the taskbar.
Yeah, and if you expand it, it will tell you, oh, we're installing drivers ready to use. But otherwise, I think most people, and it's so quick that most people won't even get the time to do that.
Right.
But we don't know whether or not it actually contained malicious malware, according to the Secret Service.
What other kind of malware is there?
Well, I guess there's the good kind, like they used to destroy centrifuges in Iran. And the kind that they intercept hard drives with and rewrite the firmware on so that it can never be removed.
The good kind of malware is the kind that the U.S. government writes.
Yeah, and then releases into the wild accidentally or intentionally. But Matthew Min asked Garcia how close Zhang got to a Mar-a-Lago computer. Within arm's reach of a computer in the club's reception area.
So she got into
she
the
may
lobby.
have even been on the other side of the desk. Right. How close was she to a computer? This sounds like a witch hunt. It does. And it's certainly odd that she had 5 SIM cards, but hey, whatever, man. I don't think they've got enough on her.
I've got 4 SIM cards. Come at me.
This is a call to freedom. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom here on LRN.FM. And we've been talking about this Chinese woman who was arrested by the feds for trying to enter a Mar-a-Lago and who turned out to have 5 SIM cards, 9 USB drives, one of which was possibly infected with quote-unquote malicious malware and may not have been. And now being denied bail. The whole thing is very confusing. But the most jarring thing for me is that she did have a signal detector, which they allege is used, I think could be used is probably a more accurate depiction, but they allege that it is used to detect hidden cameras.
Could be. I don't keep one of those in my vacation luggage. So,
well, to be fair, neither do I. But if I was going to China, I might.
Yeah, if I was going to China, I would bring all completely new electronics, period, and dump them when I got back.
Maybe that's what she did. Maybe that's why she had 5 SIM cards.
Could be.
I think I probably got 5 as well. Come to think about it.
Yeah,
because you get like 4 for 99 cents.
Yeah, I've got like 2 Freedom Pop cards that I never use and 2 Project Fi cards.
I need a Sprint one again for this phone over here because I don't think I'm going to fix my S7. Not at this point. Maybe if like crypto jumps back up to $20,000 per Bitcoin, but right now it would basically just be cost neutral for me to get the crypto back off of it. That's about how much it would cost to have it fixed. And I just can't be bothered to do something that's just cost neutral.
You don't have your seed phrase?
No.
Oops.
Well, it's just a hot wallet, so I don't keep a ton of crypto on it. It's got like maybe $150 in crypto on it. It's not going to be the end of the world if I lose it. It's not my computer, it's not my hidden tablet, and it's not what was my previous backup, but it's now my primary communication device, which has now had its crypto moved to somewhere else. Obviously, because I don't want to carry around all of my crypto. Not that I have a lot of crypto in the first place. I'm not going to talk about that. But so this chick was arrested for trying to enter the Mar-a-Lago facility, and when asked if she had contact with a computer or something like that, the Secret Service guys or the prosecutor answered, well, she came within arm's reach of a computer.
At the reception desk.
At the reception desk, yes. So she could have gone in and been like, hey, I'm here for blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, you're under arrest. You're Chinese. What are you doing here? You're not allowed to be here. So Garcia also disclosed that messages from Zhang's iPhone shows she learned from an event promoter on March the 26th that the Mar-a-Lago Gala had been canceled 2 days before she flew from China to the United States. So it does seem that...
So it was an actual event. It just happened to be canceled.
Yeah, and it does seem that Mark Edge was correct when he alleged that, a lot of these people, they buy these tour kits and things like that. And she seems to have purchased that. There is also ties to the spa at which the owner of the Patriots was recently arrested for sex trafficking or whatever. In that the person to whom she paid $20,000 for her tour ticket was a previous owner of that spa, which is an interesting connection, whether it means anything or not.
It might not.
Yeah, there may be no significance to it at all.
It's a small world, though.
It's not that small, though. But
it's Florida.
Well, yeah, but she wasn't arrested in Florida, was she? Is Mar-a-Lago in Florida?
That's where Mar-a-Lago is.
Oh, well, see, I don't know. I don't pay attention to this. For all I know, I assumed it was somewhere in Las Vegas for some weird reason. I don't know why I assumed that, but I did. Because it's Trump, I guess, and that's where Trump Towers is.
Trump Towers in Manhattan.
Well, then what am I thinking about?
I have no clue.
He's got something in Vegas that is supposed to be the tallest building there, and that as someone who has lived on the Strip, well, not on the Strip, but within viewable range of the Strip can attest, it is not the tallest building in Vegas. But anyway, so he disclosed that she learned about an event in March the 26th, and it seems like that was the event she was trying to attend. Though it had been canceled, she had also already given this dude $20,000 to pay for the tour.
Right.
So I don't blame her very much for going on with it.
Yeah, if you'd already paid $20,000, yeah, you might as well go. But
Matthew
there was still something fishy about all this in the first place.
Well, anytime Trump and the Secret Service are involved, it's going to be fishy, in my opinion.
Well, yeah,
and the
whole Hotel Las Vegas.
And the whole debacle about the malicious malware on the flash drive is that ultimately they don't even know whether or not there was malicious software on it because they're that inept. Not only did they plug in this unknown flash drive and possibly infect their own laptop, but they apparently can't even figure out whether or not the laptop is infected. And I don't do work for the feds.
Ever heard of a virus scan?
Well, yeah.
The Geek Squad can figure this out.
I don't know if... I'm not a big fan of virus scans. I prefer to look at the behavior of computers to determine whether or not they're actually infected. But I did this for a living for 9 years. There are telltale signs when something is infected. I would hope that the Secret Service would be capable of doing this. And I don't do work for the feds, but if they want to send me a few $1 million worth of Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash, I think I could be inclined to tell them whether or not the laptop is infected. That would be the most that I would do.
I could do that too.
Yeah. But so she is saying that the whole thing is a misunderstanding due to language differences. And there could very well be some truth to that.
Okay.
Saying that if an interpreter had been present at Mar-a-Lago, we would not be here today, said her attorney.
So has
Militello.
Has her attorney given an excuse?
Well, yeah, that she was a Chinese person who didn't speak a lot of English, who sort of wandered in there thinking that there was to be an event. Or, trying to get her money's worth for the $20,000 that she had spent. I don't know. I would argue that it's certainly curious that she went to this place knowing the event was canceled. But then again, I don't know why not. I mean, she had the ticket to be there, so event or not. Militello and co-counsel Robert Adler said the evidence was not overwhelming. I would say that there is no evidence except she happened to be a Chinese person trying to go to Mar-a-Lago. That seems to be their evidence.
Yeah, the frequency counter or whatever it was is kind of suspicious.
And that there is no recording of her responses to initial questioning after her arrest. They proposed a bond of $250,000 to be co-signed by her father. So not only is there no video of this, but not only do they really have no evidence, that she was a spy or anything along those lines, but they have no video of her lies. And one of the things that she's being charged with here is lying to federal investigators.
Right.
And they have no record of that whatsoever. We just have to totally trust the Secret Service to be telling the truth about it. And I don't know about you, but if an organization has the word secret in their title, I'm not inclined to just take their word for things.
You can't trust a cop as far as you can throw them, and that goes double for federal cops.
Oh, that's another really good point. Yeah, you expect me to believe something a cop says about this Chinese woman who tried to go to a place. That's ultimately what it is. She tried to go to a place, and she had a signal detector, whatever that means, whatever implications that has, and possibly a USB drive that she may have even gotten infected. She may not be the source about it. She may just be another victim.
Yeah, of malicious malware.
Yes, of malicious malware. That's another reason we shouldn't trust the Secret Service on this, because they say stupid things like malicious malware.
They don't know what they're talking about. How can you believe them?
Yeah, that's the Secret Service, and we're just going to take their word for it, that this woman's a spy and doesn't need bail. This is the Call to Freedom. We're going to tell you more about her arrest and what the feds are saying about her, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is the Call to Freedom, and maybe you listen regularly to the show and have been wondering how you can help and show your support. Well, social media shares certainly go a long way, but so does cash, and you can do that with Patreon at patreon.com/call-to-freedom. Our wonderful patrons there are currently helping to keep the show up and running, including the podcast at calltofreedomlive.podbean.com, which, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of people might want to check out since it actually doesn't contain the commercials that people are bitching about incessantly. But we can't thank our sponsors enough for showing their support. Once more, that's patreon.com/call-to-freedom if you would like to check it out. And we've been discussing the Mar-a-Lago incident, as it were, where this Chinese woman was arrested by the feds while trying to enter the Mar-a-Lago club. And the feds, in my opinion, are making a mountain out of a molehill, much in the same way they did that Russian woman who happened to be involved in some gun rights organizations.
Yeah. She was talking to the NRA because she wanted to
being
start a
political,
Russian gun rights organization.
Being political while being Russian was ultimately the charge against her. It appears to be that being in America while being Chinese is the charge against this woman. But
well,
we're called
150 years old.
We're called now by Loyal Logic, who is joining in our Discord lines at discord.lrn.fm, who's of the mind that I'm being too soft on the Chinese lady. So
yeah, how you guys doing today?
Doing good. So you think I'm being too lenient with her, presumably because of my dislike of the federal government?
No. I think it's not just a dislike of the federal government, but I think you're not understanding what these agents do on a daily basis. They have to assess what they see. And if they see somebody with a lot of cash, they see someone with SD cards, has malware at a presidential estate, they have to take all that into consideration. And one thing you said that kind of struck me, you said, well, they said she lied to them, and you're, rebutted as, well, we have no proof of that. But we have to take these agents at their word. Now, I don't like it. You don't like it, but this is
I'm not doing it. It's not a matter of liking it or not liking it. I am not doing it. I am not taking any cop at their word.
Well,
because
okay,
they are allowed to lie.
Well, okay, but you have to, I think you will agree there are people that do work very hard and actually go into cyber crimes and things like that. That's what they do. Like, that's what they enjoy. So they're going to take things like this serious. So my point is that obviously there's something that they're not telling us. Maybe they did crack the malware and they know what's going on, but because it's so, classified, it could be. But we have to look at it as the whole picture. Let's say I'm with you on it. Let's say they just found the SD cards. Okay, that's, malware. She could have got affected. But then you find a scanner, then you find large amounts of money, and it's at the presidential estate. When you take everything like that into consideration, and the fact that the Chinese government has been doing cyber attacks against this country for decades, that puts a different spin on it. And that's why I feel you're being too light on the situation. Now, it could be she's innocent, but we have to take it into consideration that she's not. And until then, we have to look into the matter.
This isn't happening in a FISA court, though. This is happening in a public courtroom where they had journalists at and things like that. And the prosecutors admitted that they don't know whether or not there was actually malware on the flash drive.
That's, and I'm here that I'm not saying all the evidence is out, but we still have to look into it.
So we're going to hold her under the assumption that she's guilty until we prove she's innocent.
Yep,
no, not at all. But I do believe that if she is a flight risk, if they found she might be connected to the state. Again, things we might not know because we're not privy to that information. But there's obviously something that we're not being told why she's a flight risk.
Well, we are. We're told she's a flight risk because she might go back to China. That was the reasoning they gave.
Yeah, but why would she go back to China? There's obviously something they have found to...
No, not at all.
Because the prosecutor said so.
Because they arrested her for trying to enter this facility that she wasn't allowed to be at.
Club.
I would want to leave the country, too, if I went to China and not speaking much Chinese, tried to enter a place and then got arrested for it. I'd be like, look, can I just go home?
I agree with you. But why did they hold her? They held her because of all the things they found. If they found nothing on her, they wouldn't have kept her. And you know that. You know if they didn't find anything. I don't know that. So you are under assumption that anybody that enters Mar-a-Lago, which it happens all the time, you can go look up the reports that enter Mar-a-Lago, they aren't kept like this. She is kept because there was evidence showing that something could be going on.
Are they Chinese?
Well, I guarantee you, if you look up some of the reports, I guarantee you there's plenty of people there, especially tourists, that are coming to Mar-a-Lago not knowing it's a private estate. It's not something that's uncommon. I actually encourage you to look it up. It happens. Tourists are going to make things like this, but they're not going to be stayed in jail. They might be taken off the estate, but they kept her because there was evidence to show something could be going on. They didn't keep her just because she went to Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I mean, it seems like they did. And I mean, all they have found at this point, according to them, is some USB drives, some SD cards, some SIM cards, the possibility that one of these USB drives was infected, some cash, which I would understand why a Chinese person visiting the United States would carry cash.
And you're not allowed to bring that much cash on a plane, so where did she get the cash?
Oh, yes, you are. That's a myth. You can bring as much cash as you want.
I don't know where you heard that. You're actually only allowed to bring, like, I believe, $15,000 on a plane.
You can bring as much as you want.
Well, she didn't have $15,000 in the first place. It was $77,500. But whether she took it on,
you made it sound like a lot more than that.
Whether she took it on the plane or not is kind of immaterial because there are these things called international banks, some of which certainly operate in both China and the United States. Deposit it there, withdraw it here.
Yeah, HSBC. There you go.
Well, and then they found the scanner, though. And then they've,
the scanner is a weird one. I will give you that. It is not something
That's what I'm saying.
It is not.
That's all I'm saying is there's enough information there to go, okay, if she's Chinese, the Chinese have been committing cyber attacks. Let's look into this. And because she might be a flight risk, we're going to have to hold her. Now, I don't like
usually
it.
What they do usually what they do in that case is they say, okay, leave your passport with the court and we'll grant you bail.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean she can't drive up to Canada and get out through Canada. It happens. You can be smuggled out of this country. Anybody that thinks otherwise is naive.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope it remains true forever that a person can be smuggled out of this country.
Well, no, of course. Oh, I agree. I agree. You should never be held in a country. If you want to leave, you can leave. But if you are committing a crime or suspected of a crime, the state, if they have reasonable proof, they should at least allowed to hold you until something comes forward.
At this point,
like they're saying she's never going to get out.
No, they're saying she could face up to 6 years in prison, though. And, I will accede the point that having the signal detector is certainly strange.
Is that how they described it? A signal detector?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said that it is used to detect hidden cameras.
Used to detect hidden cameras. I'm going to have to go back to my spy catalog and see what that really is.
Yeah.
Well, no, they have it where it detects the frequency from cameras and stuff like they have them. And that's the thing is you have to take everything that she had and go, okay, well, what's going on here? We don't know. We need to investigate what's going on. And you can't just let someone leave because what if they look into the malware and it's connected to the Chinese government?
What malware?
You know what? No, okay, no.
I'm saying
let's say well, I'm just giving a scenario. Let's say they let her go. They look into the supposed malware. I could see to you they might not be malware, but let's say they look into the malware.
Well, even if she did have malware, it is not a crime to have a USB drive that is infected with malware. You know? It is
depending on what it is. It can be.
No, it is absolutely not. It is a federal crime I don't know about federal, but it is a crime to attempt to distribute that malware and to infect other people's computers. But in and of itself, it obviously isn't illegal to have an infected flash drive because if so, people's grandmothers would be getting arrested by the FBI across the United States.
I mean, that's a big stretch, though.
It is not. If this woman's carrying around 9 flash drives, there is a really good chance that one of them is going to get infected somehow, and she might. I guarantee you that half the people listening to this show probably have an infected flash drive that they don't know about, and if they don't, then they probably took part in the Den attack that happened, I think, in 2017 across how many? 15 million devices?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Most of which were just infected Android phones, and most people have no idea that they're infected with this malware. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to find that she had an infected flash drive and just had no awareness of it whatsoever. But we'll have to get back into this tomorrow because there's so many angles to it. Unfortunately, that does it for us today. But don't go anywhere because Free Talk Live is coming up next.